What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Primal Performance and our progressional series on a road to a powerful two-arm kettlebell swing. Now, today we're actually going to be doing deadlifts. All those other videos before, we didn't really have anything in our hands. It was just controlling separate parts. And yes, we started to coordinate the hinge a little bit last time, but now we're actually going to do the deadlift. And the deadlift, all it is a slower version of the swing. The two-arm kettlebell swing, when done properly, is a super fast version in the eccentric or the negative portion, and the concentric or the positive portion of the swing. Now, what we're going to do first, we're going to quickly cover what we've gone over in the other progressional videos. So by now you should have a really good understanding of what a good relationship with the floor is with your foot. By now you should also know what diaphragmatic breathing is all about and how to keep and maintain that while you're doing movements. You'll also understand how to fire abdominals, to understand how to keep the spine rigid when we're trying to do such explosive movements as such. We also went over the hinge, the hip hinge, pushing our butts back and understanding not having so much of a passive bend forward as much as understanding of pushing our hips back, almost like you're sitting into a chair or pushing your butt, like in the last video, pushing your butt towards the wall. So what we're going to do, I have a kettlebell right here. I'm going to turn to my profile so you can see how I'm going to do this and how all those other progressions came into play. So, what I want you to do, again, you can imagine that wall behind you, and again, you're keeping your chest nice and proud, and I'm reaching my arms down to the floor so I can feel the tension in my lats. We're going to do some pause drills here in a moment where we're going to really force you to understand what the lats are doing in the bottom of the deadlift or the bottom of the swing, but for the sake of this video, bottom of the deadlift. So, I'm setting up, I want the bell to be right in between your heels. I don't want it to be a little bit forward or in front of the foot, just because it's going to help promote you pushing your hips back rather than if it's here. Not to say you cannot reach your hips back and receive the bell from there. It just is going to encourage people to more likely bend over passively like I am here, where again you can see my shoulder blades are far in front of my foot. So, that was between my heels. I'm assuming the top position, my standing plank, so everything is nice and tight. From here, I'm going to loosen, just soft bend in my knee and drive my tailbone backwards as I maintain that really good relationship with the floor with my feet. Once I have the bell, before you stand up, I want you to pull your hips back almost to the point where you can feel your big toe almost coming off the ground, just to try to pull all the slack out of the system. Pull your chest up, keep the armpits tight, and from here I want you to put a little bit of force into the ground, taking the load off the floor. Now the bell is only hovering above the ground. Now you're going to keep it here. You'll really start to feel your lats working really hard to keep the bell in line with your shins. If your upper body gets passive or even tension in the legs becomes a little bit more passive, you're going to notice things like this happen and the bell sit in front of me rather than be right here. From there, I want you to drive all the way up to your standing position. Here's my standing plank. I'm pushing my tailbone back, keeping the bell in line with my shins. Having returned to its start position, I'm going to drive into the floor, pulling that bell back into the standing plank position. So now I'm going to have Graham come over and do some little bit of tough love. Nothing too tight or too strong, just to check that I have those muscles on. So, I'm going to push back, check my lats, make sure you can feel that there's tension. Yeah.
Nice and tight.
Good. I'm pulling that bell back to the start position.
Rock solid.
Good. Do another rep.
Maintaining tension in the lats. Legs are nice and strict.
Alright.
Dude, still active.
I'm going to push my tailbone back and bring the bell back to its starting position. Thank you very much, Graham. So, without going into too many of the big mistakes that people make in the deadlift, because there's so many, I'm going to go over when people have it almost looking right, what are some of these very common mistakes you'll see. So even if you're setting up properly there, if you don't, like most people, have adequate tension throughout the trunk, you're going to see something more like this. I may receive it fine, and watch as I initiate the pull with my low back rather than my hips. And I'll come to the top, and you can see I have a very tipped forward pelvis. I can feel the strain in my low back. My abs don't feel anything. Putting it back down again. The arch in my back is far too great. I'm dropping, my pelvis is dropping forward. I'm initiating the pull with my low back, as you can see there, versus here and driving with my legs, keeping my abs tight, so my spine remains rigid. And that's how eventually the deadlift turns into a powerful swing. And I'll give you some drills in the next video to understand how to make that transition. So at home, again, quality is the utmost importance. So work with small numbers till you understand that all those parts from all the progressions we did before are all there. All that criteria is there. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I want you to hit like, leave your comments, subscribe. Coach Kyle, as always, Coach Graham behind the camera.
Yes, I am.